Hello. Welcome to What is Holy Week and What is Good Friday. My name is Annalisa Hunter, and I'm the pastor here at Suamico United Methodist Church. I would like to take a little bit of time to explain the tradition of Holy Week. Now, a lot of people are like, what is this? It sounds like some old-fashioned, irrelevant tradition of the church. And in some ways, it is definitely old-fashioned. I would not say it's irrelevant, though. When I look around, the world seems to be telling us that we should just focus on ourselves and have the best life for ourselves. But that's not God's story, and that's not God's plan for us. God wants us to be in a healthy relationship both with God and with our community. A lot of the rules that God gave us in the Old Testament had to do with how we can be healthy in relationship as a community. What do we do when we have conflicts, when we don't get along with each other? What are the ways that we can live with kindness and gentleness to the people around us? This system of rules and laws clearly wasn't working real well. And so God eventually sent his son Jesus to live among us and teach us and kind of get us out of the idea of we had to follow rigid rules, 600 some, boom, 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 and rather get us into the spirit of the rules of how do we love God and love our neighbors as we love ourselves. What does that look like in daily living? How do we do it? So we get to Good Friday during Holy Week, and Holy Week is the time where we remember the last days of Jesus' life before he went to the cross and died and then rose again on Easter Sunday. So Good Friday is right the nub of Holy Week. It is the central point because Palm Sunday, we talked about how Jesus came to Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover meal. And there was a lot of celebrating among people who were really hoping that Jesus was their future, a future of liberty and freedom from the oppression of Rome. And we talked about Maundy Thursday, where Jesus gathered with his followers to celebrate the Passover meal, where they remembered how God had freed the Israelites, the Hebrews, from Egypt under Moses' leadership. So now we are at Good Friday. Jesus was arrested late on Thursday night. And early on Friday morning, he is standing before Jewish religious authorities for a trial. And they decide that Jesus needs to die for their perceived notions of his crimes. He was not doing things the way the Jewish religious leaders wanted them done. They had a political diplomatic agreement with Rome about how they would take care of the Jewish people. And Jesus was kind of upsetting all of that. And they had some theological differences of their understanding of God and God's relationship with us. And so they just wanted to get rid of Jesus. However, under Roman law, the Jewish religious authorities did not have the authority to take anyone's life. So they had to then send Jesus over to Pontius Pilate, who was a Roman official, and get him to approve a death sentence for Jesus. So Jesus goes through another trial. There are soldiers involved, both Jewish religious temple soldiers and then Roman soldiers. There's beatings, there's torture, there's just general mayhem. It's a terrible, horrible time for Jesus. And in the end, Jesus is sentenced to die on a cross, which is one of the most painful, tortured forms of death that humans have come up with. And so by noon on Friday, Jesus is on a cross. It takes him about 3 hours to die. And Good Friday is our church tradition of remembering what happens on this day. We usually read through the story, especially from the book of John, of what happens on this day. We usually have some quiet songs, some prayerful reflection. We reflect on our sinful nature, the ways that we have become separated from God and missed the mark of what God was wanting for us and for God's creation and for our relationships with each other and community. For some people, this seems really morbid and really dark and really shameful, and that is not the point. The reality is we can't move forward into the new life that Jesus is offering us until we look in the mirror and realize how we've screwed up in our lives and what we need to let go of so that we can live into the hopeful future that God wants for us. This is also about remembering that we are part of a story that is bigger than ourselves. It is not about me. It is not about you. This is about God continuing a relationship with God's people that's been going on forever and will go on forever. We are a small moment in a big story, and remembering this important moment when God sent his Son to take on the ultimate sacrifice for us, to face death and to conquer death. That's what Good Friday is about. It is about hope, but it's also about reflection. It's about taking accountability for what we've messed up, but looking forward with hope to Easter Sunday, that there is a new day dawning, that God has something more in store for all of us, and it's going to get better. So this year, 2024, for Good Friday, we will be gathering. We will have some songs. We will have some prayers. We will have some readings. We will gather together, not alone and not in shame, but we will quietly gather to reflect on what has been and what could be. So I invite you to come and check us out on Good Friday. We'll be meeting at 8 p.m. on Friday night and see what God has to say to you and see what hope God has in store for all of us. We'll see you next time. Thanks.